Great, we have 4 o'clock, 1600, let's get started. I am Tom Meservy from R2M Solution, and I have the pleasure to open this online workshop on the clean energy transition and energy vulnerability. I'll be the session chair for this session. And today what we're doing is we're grouping together 6 European projects from the LIFE CET Programme, Clean Energy Transition, that also touch renovation and energy vulnerability topics. And a subtone to this is tools and capacity building opportunities from 6 European projects, because these projects are working on things and we want to bring it to stakeholders, local regional authorities and other stakeholders that can take these tools and make impact with these tools. Our agenda is shown on the screen. After this opening, we'll have 10 minutes for each of the 6 projects, and then we will have approximately 20 minutes for a roundtable discussion, and maybe it's plus or take. If we can be a little quicker on the projects, then we'll have a few more minutes for discussion. We're watching the chat for questions, and we welcome interaction. For anyone that's not speaking, we remind you to mute your microphones. We hear some background noise, so check your microphone, please. And then we have with us today, and in these days at the conference, the head of the Life Clean Energy Transition Program from the European Commission with us, and he's delivered some remarks here at the conference on the program and its objectives. And I just remind everyone, it's a wonderful program. It has 1 billion in Horizon Europe to work on these challenges. You can see what they are online, and they're listed here. This is what the Clean Energy Transition sub-program is trying to do on the screen. And probably if we look at this second bullet, accelerating technology rollout, digitalization, new services and business models, and professional skills on the market, that's really at the core of this workshop. So the development of tools that we want to bring to people and knowledge so that we can make progress on clean energy training and energy vulnerability. So with those remarks, I open the session and I'll kick it off to the first project, which was the NTRAC project. And we'll hear from Virginia DeQuanzo and Marina Varvesi from ISPOR in Rome. So please, Virginia, take it away.
Thank you, Tom. You managed to say my surname correctly. Hello to everyone who's following. My name is Virginia DeQuanzo. I work at ISPOR. Together with Marina Varvesi, we manage the LIFE NTRAC project. NTRAC stands for Empowering Local and Regional Authorities to Design Energy Transition Plans through Capacity and Knowledge Building Actions. The background against which this project was built is one of decarbonization of the energy system, which is essential to reach carbon neutrality goals, since energy production and consumption is the main source of greenhouse gas emissions in the EU. Actions described in EU frameworks like the Green Deal or the EU climate law must be implemented locally and facilitated through the role of local authorities. However, most of the times local authorities lack the knowledge and capacities to have an approach that is multi-governance, so that takes into account all the levels of governance from the EU to the municipal level, multi-sectoral, so that also takes into account the social impact of the energy transition, and multi-actor, which means that it includes all the actors in society, from citizens to business sector to the academia. So this is why we decided to implement NTRAC, which, as said, is funded under the LIFE program for technical support to clean energy transition in municipalities and regions. It aims to contribute to the speeding up of the transition by increasing the capacities of 8 Mediterranean rural municipalities, which are based in Italy, in the Campania region, in Spain, in the Catalonia region, in Greece, in the Eastern Macedonia and Thrace region, and in Portugal in the Alto Alentejo region. The objectives are to, as said, enhance the knowledge and capacity of local governments, foster a structured dialogue with stakeholders in these municipalities, and facilitate a co-design of social policies that address the real needs of citizens, especially those vulnerable, in order not to leave anyone behind, and comprehend the factors influencing citizens' needs and priorities, and produce, based on that, policy recommendations that can inform decision-making regarding energy policies. The methodological approach is divided in 3 phases. The first one is, of course, to understand the local context. So understand the policy content of the transition, what has been implemented so far in the municipalities. And then we engage stakeholders in 2 main phases. First, with ethnography research. So we collect insights from stakeholders and citizens on what they perceive has been the impact of the transition. And then we also have a self-assessment of policy actors. We have policy actors evaluating themselves on what has been implemented so far. And based on these inputs, we will co-design new energy policies, so one for each municipal pilot. We have different activities. The first one is the policy taxonomy that we have produced. It maps all the strategies, plans, and policies that operate at different governance levels. So from the EU, the national, the regional, and municipal level. Then we have also done the ethnography research to understand the needs and the perception of citizens in this energy transition, the self-assessment of policy actors and the policies that they have already implemented. Then we will also implement energy modeling tools to assess the impact of the policies that we will be able to design in the framework of the project. We will deliver training courses to address knowledge and capacity gaps of these policy actors in the pilot municipalities. And then finally, we will co-design energy policies. Of course, we plan to involve, and we are involving stakeholders through different groups. The first one is the municipality region partnership. We have one in each pilot country, and it serves to collect inputs from local stakeholders. But at the same time, we manage through this to disseminate the results of the project activities. We also have a community of practice to exchange best practices and investigate the key levers of the energy transition. And we also created 4 groups of climate explorers that act as observers for the ethnography research. And then we have also established an advisory board to support the project development with the expertise of European practitioners in the field. This is one of the first results of the project that you will be able to find shortly on the project website. It's the taxonomy of social energy plans. This one in particular is the one of the Italian case, but we have produced one for each pilot country and one for the European level. We have mapped all of the policies, the strategies that can fall under the big umbrella of social energy transition. We also managed to map the connections between the different governance levels. So there can be direct ones that are more of a cause-effect ones, for instance, from the EU governance regulation to the integrated national energy and climate plans on the national level, but also the national long-term strategies. And there are also parallel policies where the connection is less direct, but still interesting to observe. The colors stand for the different sectors that these policies fall under. So we have some that are part of the economy or circular economy, bioeconomy sectors, some that are more on the social sector, some that are climate adaptation or climate change. So the different colors stand for this. And online, it's actually very interesting to see how they stand up the different connections. So I suggest that you look it up on the website. It will be available very soon. Then one of the other core activities of the project that I presented is the ethnography research, which was done through interviews to citizens. We trained climate explorers, we call them, in the methodology to conduct interviews. We trained 10 in the largest regions and 5 in the smaller ones. And we managed to conduct over 575 interviews in all of the 4 countries. This methodology was very interesting because it allowed us to not assume anything on the perception and the needs of citizens, but actually listen to what they perceive are the the impact of these policies and what their practices are. So they don't feel profiled or boxed in a certain category, but they are free to express their perceptions. We have some preliminary results from the Italian case studies, for instance, on practices related to energy. So, for instance, the citizens said that they already implement some practices like recycling, sustainable mobility, efficient water use, but they also perceive obstacles like the high costs or bureaucracy or other bad habits in relation to the transition to clean energy. They mentioned as necessary incentives to support the transition, of course, economic incentives like the ecobonus, or also cultural ones like environmental education. In general, the perception on the topic of clean energy is one of growing awareness, although unsustainable behavior still persists. But the expectation is that there will be a greater spread of renewable energy and more sustainable public policies. Another core action of the project is the self-evaluation of policy actors in the implementation of social energy policies. And what we will do is to gather the data collected from the ethnography. So we will have the questions that climate explorers ask to citizens turned into questions to policymakers in order to conduct a comparison between the two perceptions. One, of the actual impact that the citizens perceive that the policy implemented so far have had, and one of the policymakers, so what they believe was their impact. So they will be confronted, let's say, hopefully positively with the perceptions of citizens. For instance, if the question for citizens from climate explorers was, are you aware of any incentives provided in policies in order to increase clean energy practices? The question to policymakers will be, what kind of incentives have you supported or implemented so far in order to increase sustainable practices from citizens? So we will be able to make a comparison, and the analysis will be focused around 5 indicators: strategic dimension, intersectoral integration, monitoring of these policies, the governance of these policies, so the actors involved, and also the territorial focus. Finally, this is our consortium. So we have 6 technical partners: ICE4, who's coordinating, Kilowatt in Bologna, leading the ethnography work, Ecoservice in Spain, Nova in Portugal, Nova University leading the taxonomy work, CCR in Greece, and ESCP in the Netherlands. We also have pilot municipalities, most of them, especially in Italy and Greece, as partners of the project. We have 1 modeling partners, which is E3M in Greece, and 1 affiliated entity, which is Rete Assist. At this QR code, you will be able to find the project website. And if you have any curiosities, you can write to us at the email indicated in this slide. And nothing, I just suggest that you go look up our taxonomy results in just a couple of weeks, I think. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Virginia. Perfectly on time. Well done. That was the NTRAC project. Next, we'll hear from Dr. Uli Jacob. Dr. Jacob research on the local Go Green project, empowering local authorities for accelerating the CET, clean energy transition planning. Uli, please take us away.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Thanks for the introduction. It's a pleasure to present to you now the second project in the row here, which is the local Go Green project, which is looking into the empowering of local authorities for accelerating the CET. So I want to give you a brief insight what the project is about and what we have achieved so far. Yeah, we start just with the project consortium. We are 8 partners from 7 countries with in total 6 demonstration municipalities, which I will introduce to you in a later stage. And those partners now really try to somehow afford on a local level the clean energy transition to look into local potentials and needs of the different stakeholders involved, especially from the 6 municipalities, and to support them with advice and also for the policymakers with some in-depth knowledge to overcome their hurdles probably for this transition to 2030 and later on, depending on different needs in different countries. And one more important thing, as we have heard before already as well, the networking with the different stakeholders, that's also quite important thing here in our project. And how we will do that and what's the methodology behind, that's something which I want to present to you also in the next slides. Yeah, as said before, we have 6 demonstration municipalities all over Europe. So from Slovenia, Croatia, Bulgaria, Spain, Italy, and also in Germany. And we try now with a bottom-up approach to help all these 6 municipalities to involve the different stakeholders, the local stakeholders here from these cities and municipalities, starting with a regional cluster, so-called local working groups, where we try to involve the different stakeholders on site to give them some advice and, as I said before, also to do some other work in collecting information as well, to support them at the end to build integrated climate and energy plans, so ICEPs. Because most of them, they have not in place such things so far, such plans, and that's something which this project, the Local Green project, is really looking and focusing on, especially with these 6 municipalities. Another aspect is, and that's where we want to try to get involved more stakeholders, is a transnational expert group later on, which will then provide knowledge, expertise, and capacity on a technical, commercial, but also on a regulatory and policy science assistance part of the work which we're collecting now within this 3 years project. So this is something which will be also later on available on the website, where interested bodies and stakeholders can try to get into contact with different partners here in the project involved, of course, also with the municipalities and the colleagues there. And especially the workshops, which we are also really running on trainings for the different experts and stakeholders, will try to get involved them for the energy transition for their future work. And so that's not only at the end something which try to help them to do the plans for this, but also to get some real measures, some involvement of real things to be done on the ground. Now, what's the methodology behind? So we have 3 pillars with the knowledge transfer, the acquisition and capitalization of that. We already identified different hurdles for the different pylons. So there are, of course, some legislation gaps, lack of knowledge. There's a lot of things on decision-making, who really has the power to do the energy transition in different municipalities. And at the end, all of that, it's all about financing. So how to get funding, financing, to do all these measures which have to be done to get the energy transition done in the different years which are given by the national or European laws. More important is for the stakeholder engagement. So the second pillar here, we will develop 6 roadmaps with different pre-feasibility studies, and that's something which is also, of course, linked to the different local working groups and the involvement of them to get this feedback, to get involved and try to figure out what was really necessary and important for the different municipalities, and later on also for the transnational municipality cooperation, which try to involve then later on not only the 6 municipalities here in the project, but also others from the other projects, or also from others which are interested in this clean energy transition and the help which is given by the different funded LIFE projects. Now, we have developed and prioritized 5 areas which are important now for the 6 municipalities. We try to get some feedback from their side if they're interested for land use planning, for increased carbon absorption, but also, of course, the expansion of renewables, waste to energy, or energy efficiency of buildings. And the last one is about sustainable transportation and e-mobility. So those are the 5 priority areas where the municipalities which are involved in this project can look into. And just to give you a first idea what the different municipalities are interested in. So this is a primary result of a survey which we did on these key priority areas, which were pre-selected now by these municipalities. And as you can see, most of them are interested, of course, in the expansion of renewable energies, on energy efficiency of buildings, and again on the e-mobility and sustainable transportation. None of them are so far have focusing or are interested to focus on waste to energy. And there's one municipality, the one from Croatia, who wants to look into land use planning for increased carbon absorption. So those are the primary results. Of course, there's a lot of ongoing work collecting information at that point of the project as we are in an early stage. So what are the achievements and the next steps so far? We have built a database with the different plans which were already developed by the different municipalities so far in the recent years, trying to figure out what is described there, what are the goals for the climate and energy plans for each pilot, and where are the gaps, what we can probably provide with the project on a later stage. So the analysis and the comparison of this set of plans and the key performance indicators to characterize the climate energy plans, that's something which we will do now in the next few weeks and months. Also the gap analysis, and of course also with all this information we will develop training materials in total 3 modules. First of all, to introduce the ICEP in general, but also to try to help the different municipalities to get known what the priority areas probably can help them in their personal needs and their situation. And at the end, as I said before, it's all about financing, to give them also some advice on funding opportunities and other stuff. And all these training modules will be available later on the e-learning platform on the local Go Green website, of course, to other interested stakeholders in this transition, in this clean energy transition. As said before, we will start now with the pre-feasibility studies on the different municipalities, because we will develop 3 actions for each municipality, try to help them really to get to real measures, then invite it somehow on a local level. And with that, I want to close this short introduction. If someone is interested to get known more about the project, then please either visit the website. You can also subscribe to the newsletter, or of course we're also on social media. So there's a lot of closing links to get known the project in more depth. And of course, there's also the potentially to send us an email or what else to get in contact with the project later on. That's it from the local Go Green project. Back to you, Tom.
Thank you, Uli. Well done. And even a couple minutes early. So thank you for that. Very nice overview.
Some time for the round table, I think. So that's
very good.
More important.
Excellent. So Uli will be followed by the NEC platform project, and that will be presented by Jeremy Claro from IEECP. And Jeremy, please, you can share your screen and start presenting.
It's better with the mic on.
Very good. And now we see you full screen. Very good. Perfect.
Okay, perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Jérémy Clairaut from the Institute for European Energy and Climate Policy. And this afternoon I will present you our project called NEC Platform, and the first results from implementation in 6 member states of multi-level climate and energy dialogues. The platform, the project in a nutshell, we are supporting 6 EU member states in setting up and managing these multi-level dialogues platforms. And we foster the vertical and horizontal integration of the NECPs. Where does this multi-level dialogue come from, and where is the initiative from? It's from the governance regulation. So in full, the regulation, the governance of the Energy Union and Climate Action from 2018. And it's Article 11 that calls member states to establish a multi-level energy and climate dialogue, bringing together local authorities, civil society, business, investors, other relevant stakeholders. We can put in that, of course, the academia, and discuss different options for energy and climate policies. maybe you are familiar already with the concept of, if you are not, basically multi-level governance is organized on two axes. That is the vertical one, the vertical integration, where you have the different levels of policy making in a given territory. For example, you will start local at the city, then the regional, then the national, and then at the EU. These levels are different from one country to another. For example, in France, that is one of our countries, we will start at the city level, then there is the department, and then there is the region, then there is the central state. Whereas if you look at Portugal, it starts at the parish level, that can go very, very local, very small entities. So all this vertical organization of decision making and horizontal component is on a given level, the different, what we will qualify as silos. So energy, environment, mobility, special plans, that we separate because we need dedicated teams to work on them, but they are intricately linked. So with modeling this multi-level government on these two axes, we better manage to find synergies between these different levels and these different domains on the same levels. Who is in the project and who are our partners? At the European level, we are two. We are Energy Cities and IECP. At national level, we are present in 6 countries: in Portugal, in Croatia, in Bulgaria, France, Italy, and Romania. If you look at where we are now after 2 years of project, we have implemented 3 dialogues already in Portugal, 4 in France, 5 in Italy, in Croatia, in Romania, and 7 in Bulgaria. What are these dialogues made for in the end? So bring people together, foster horizontal and vertical integration of energy and climate policies, become a privileged forum or fora to discuss the NECPs, and help the member states complying with the governance regulation. I'm coming now to the tool aspects of this climate and energy dialogues. So they are made for aligning energy and climate policies in the different levels, include more bottom-up decision making, and provide feedback on NECP drafting, but also on the national energy and climate progress reporting. That is, it can be tricky at times because they are often mistaken with the NECP. That is a completely different process. The NECPR is a reporting process that comes every 2 years, whereas the NECP is a plan on 5 years, and that is supposed to be followed by the country. So these dialogues, are these a tool that works? As I said, so according to the Article 11, we have the national authorities, local authorities, civil society, business, investors, academia. And I want to show you the example of Croatia to see a bit who was on board. Croatia, you have to know that our local partner, Regea, has been working on it and involving people at different levels for the past 10 years. So on their first dialogue, they had already on board almost 50 people with the 8 ministries, with so there were the Energy Agency, the Chamber of Commerce, the Association of Croatian Cities, NGOs, academia. From the start, it went very well, and it kept going well, getting more ministries on board, and the outcomes are that the Ministry of Finances now wants to take ownership of this platform and to sustain it in time. So it's a very good outcome, and it will become a state, let's say central state, ruled or owned platform. bringing up all the levels, all the participants together. Another successful example that is successful and at the same time not so successful, it's Bulgaria. Because Bulgaria at the beginning was completely stuck because it had a caretaker government. From the moment they had a real government, they were able to bring the central state representatives on board and organize people from various levels, including, you can see the US Embassy, but also municipalities, financial institutions, companies, citizens, media. And in these 3 dialogues took place in less than a year, and you can see that from 72 we went up to 143 people with a lot of involvement from the state, and it was really great to see that. Because for the first time, the minister of energy provided public information about how the state is dealing with the NECP, how they are planning to do it, which wasn't the case before. It wasn't transparent at all. They recognized the multi-level dialogue as an official start of public consultations for the NECP, and they announced that they will keep stakeholders in the loop about the overall development process. In the meantime, this government dismissed, well, they were called to elections again, and they didn't manage to find a new coalition. So Bulgaria is back now to a caretaker government again, and things slowed down. But we can still see that with a bit of stability, we can really achieve great results quickly. The remaining challenges that we are facing at the moment are the lack of trust and cooperation. We meet this in almost all our projects. To make the platform permanent, so we saw that in Croatia, it's doable. And the other countries, I didn't mention them because it's still a work in progress, and I have a limited time. Convince the ministries to participate. When we get them on board, it becomes much easier. The lack of dedicated staff in ministry, and it can be broadened to the lack of cash in general. The setting up of dialogues, that takes a lot of resources, and for example, Portugal is really struggling on that. The tight deadline to produce NECPs, especially when you have political instability, or in general, it's simply reporting, seen as reporting, and not work that will come for that will help the country. So sometimes they do it last minute, and forgetting about the consultation process. Changing the top-down culture to bottom-up approach, which is also quite challenging, and convincing people and stakeholders to remain engaged, committed in it. So
2 minutes, Jeremy. 2 minutes. Thank you.
perfect. Thank you. To conclude on these dialogues, it's a tool that works, it's a tool that can work, but there are obstacles. First, as I told you, is political instability. If you are going through elections, and you have instability regarding which ministry is in charge, if the ministries change, as we can see in France at the moment, the Ministry of Ecological Transition switched and shifted the competencies in different agencies and so on. So almost everything is to be done again, which is quite complicated. It will take some time to come back to the level we had achieved in France. Sorry about this. Another thing is the central state top-down culture, especially, well, in France, very central. Romania, Bulgaria, we saw it as well. In Croatia, Italy, it's a bit less. But then comes the lack of resources, which is common, and the staff, the teams are understaffed most of the time, and it's difficult to organize new things with people who are already overwhelmed. So it's they need more budget in general, and parallel initiatives where, for example, in France, there were 4 or 5 initiatives similar to ours from different actors. It's a country that is 70 million inhabitants, so there were different initiatives that were soliciting the ministries at the same time for quite similar results. So finding them and grouping them. Success factors, strong participation from the ministries, avoiding or prevent the parallel initiatives, the persistence and of the local authorities and agencies in general is crucial, and patience, because things move slow, and from the moment there is political instability, it can get easily stuck. Work in progress very quickly. We
And
are
Jeremy,
replicating now.
do be quick, please, at this point.
Yes.
Thank you.
In 6 other countries, and we have a platform implementation guide that we started preparing that will come by the end of the project. On that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeremy. Sorry to push you to keep on
No
the
worries.
10 minutes. We got to move. Great. So we did
I
that.
couldn't see the time.
Yeah. No, indeed, I understand. And so now we've made it halfway through the projects. We've done 3 when we have 3 to go. Next, we'll hear from the Renoverti project from Mara Oprea, also from the same organization, IECP. Mara, please.
Thank you. I'm just sharing my screen now. Hopefully you can see everything. So, yep, thanks, Tom,
Hide
for
at the
the
bottom of the
introduction.
screen.
Of
The hide.
course.
There you go. Great. Perfect.
Thanks. So as Tom was mentioning, my name is Mara. I am also a colleague of Jeremy's at IECP, and I will be presenting on the Renoverti project, which seeks to create home renovation roadmaps to address energy poverty in rural districts. So the objectives of Renoverti are mainly to design and promote the renovation and energy efficiency of 17 vulnerable rural areas across 7 member states. And we are trying to do this by establishing a knowledge base about rural energy poverty. And indeed, we've actually already done this within the project. And then using this knowledge to develop rural renovation energy efficiency roadmaps, or REARs, as I'll call them from now on. And these REARs will be developed according to the characteristics of households in Central European countries, Southern European countries, and Southeastern regions as well. We will also be supporting local stakeholders in the building, co-creation, and implementation of the roadmaps. The local stakeholders in Renoverti range from the citizens and the homeowners themselves to regional agencies, policymakers, and something that is called local action groups, or LAGs. LAGs are made up of small and medium enterprises, local authorities, as well as third sector organizations that seek to increase development in rural areas. And finally, we want to deliver a scalable operating model to support the replicability of the roadmaps and guide other public actors as well as private actors to renovate new vulnerable districts in rural areas. So why are we focusing on rural areas? In general, the causes for energy poverty have become clear, and there's been an increased focus on energy poverty at the EU level in the last couple of years. But there is a general absence of practical and theoretical knowledge of how to address the issue, particularly in rural areas. And so rural areas across Europe are increasingly being left behind in the energy transition. Despite their need for support due to increased levels of vulnerability, practices to reduce energy poverty are lacking. And so that's where Renoverti comes in. And in terms of the vulnerability, you can see a correlation on screen between the green areas on the left and the dark purple areas on the right. The green areas indicate areas that are predominantly rural, and the dark purple on the right indicate areas that are more vulnerable. And so there's a correlation between rural areas and high vulnerability. Within the project, we also identified a number of barriers and gaps faced by rural households that also further or they basically expose rural households to energy poverty. So the first is financial barriers. And this is because rural homes tend to lack capital, and they also are faced with high upfront costs, as all homes are when they are trying to renovate. But due to the low income that they often have, due to the nature of their work, or because they usually tend to be older, most of the people inhabiting rural areas are retired, they can't actually pay for the upfront costs. Initially, in rural areas, homes usually are of lower energy performance, and so residents have higher energy burdens. And finally, they also have lower credit access and therefore higher debt aversion. Another barrier that was identified was a geographic barrier. So rural households struggle from geographic isolation. Therefore, they don't have access to a wide variety of energy efficiency services or energy services in general. They struggle from a shortage of local energy efficiency workers and a lack of expertise in energy efficiency and renovation. There's also an awareness or an access barrier, which includes the lack of awareness or skepticism about energy efficiency in general, as well as renovation. The lack of time or prioritization for energy efficiency, as well as a lack of access to traditional marketing channels that would be used within more urban areas. And I do want to note here that because we are dealing with the topic of energy poverty, priorities of rural homes tend to go to necessities such as cost of food or regular things that are needed to live. So energy efficiency is not on that list. Then finally, we have regulation barriers, which includes unsupportive and inconsistent policy settings, as well as a lack of strong subnational territorial components in policymaking. So all of these barriers are going to be addressed within the REERs, and they will be addressed based on the work done within 7 pilots, and these include pilots in Croatia, Estonia, Hungary, Slovenia, Italy, Portugal, and Spain. And I've been talking about the REERs, or the renovation roadmap, so I kind of like to tell you a bit more about what these are. So the REERs are documents that seek to alleviate regulatory, administrative, financial, and technical barriers for a range of stakeholders, including homeowners and policymakers. And the document itself will have a combination of technical data about renovation, such as measures to be implemented, costs, and timelines, as well as non-technical aspects that are focused on social and cultural factors, such as the cooperation between the community, between stakeholders, processes of implementation, etc. The REERs themselves will be divided into 2 parts. The first will be what you see in the green square on the left, and it will be targeted towards the homeowners or the citizens. And it will focus on the technical considerations of renovation, and it will include information such as energy audits, setting renovation expectations, planning renovations, identifying and overcoming any barriers to renovation, as well as types of contractors to contact if you want to renovate. Then the second part will be focused on or targeted to stakeholders, and will be focused on conceptualizing and applying actions to reduce energy poverty in rural areas. So it will really be focused on how stakeholders can identify barriers and challenges to renovation, how they can help overcome these barriers and challenges, and how they can scale and replicate solutions within their jurisdiction.
2 minutes, Mara.
Okay, thank you. We also have a training program for stakeholders to increase their capacity to guide rural citizens into renovating their households. The training is multilingual and will be online, and offers 2 different courses, or 1 course on 2 different topics. The first being on technical issues, and the second being focused on tools, developed resources, and the process of the co-designing, in case anyone is interested in replicating the co-design methodology to create REERs. This is an overview of the training program, and you can see that there are 2 modules. The first is focused on the benefits of the renovation, while the second is focused on managing the process. And just to make sure that we can leave more room for the roundtable, I'd just like to propose how the results of Renarvity can be used by anyone attending this event. So there are two ways. The first is in capacity building, because we have developed these training materials that I've just mentioned for stakeholders such as the local action groups, energy agencies, municipalities, etc. And they're offered online for those who are willing to support their rural communities to alleviate energy poverty and overcome renovation barriers. And the second aspect will be collaboration in terms of policies. So by October, the REERs will be finalized, which will set the base for the implementation of the solutions in the roadmaps, as well as for policy recommendations within each participating country. Additionally, stakeholders relevant to the renovation value chain, such as regulatory bodies, will be addressed with recommendations on how to increase support for rural renovation. And once all of these solutions are implemented, the REERs can also be replicated by local authorities, energy experts, or anyone that's really interested in the topic. So if you'd like to find out more about the REERs, you can visit the Renarvity website, and the trainings can be made available on Moodle as well. If you have any more questions, feel free to email me at the email on screen or to ask during the panel discussion. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Mara. We are exactly on time. So now let's move to the fifth of 6 projects, and all these slides will be made available at the project page on the Sustainable Places website afterwards, because I know there's a lot of information. So next we'll hear from the Stepwise project presented by Amisha Panchal of IES, Integrated Environmental Solutions. Please, Amisha.
Thank you, Tom. Can you hear me and see me?
Perfectly.
Okay, great. Thanks. So I'm Amisha. I'm from IES, and we are coordinating the Stepwise project. So at the core, Stepwise project is a capacity building program, and it aims to transform local and regional authorities into early adopters of a digitized and integrated clean energy transition plans. Um, at the core, the objective of this project is to promote energy transition. And to do this, we want to build the capacities of local and regional authorities and their skills to be able to plan and deliver and monitor their energy plans for their individual local context. To achieve this, we are using a use case based approach to develop a digital toolkit for training of any local or regional authority that is disseminating the toolkit and applying this to individual use cases. In practice, what this looks like is being on the toolkit development, and then it is being applied in two-way cascaded capacity building program, whereby we are first training local and regional authorities within our consortium, and then they go on and further disseminate it within their individual use cases. So we are building capacities in two waves. Um, in the end of this, what we want to achieve is we want to train and support local and regional authorities. So what
And
does this?
Amisha, just let me check.
Yeah,
We still see slide number 1. Is that correct?
I'm on slide 3.
No? Okay, so we're not seeing any changes in the
Oh,
slide.
okay. Thank you. I will share again.
And everything you said has been perfectly clear, so I don't think we've missed anything, but I just noticed that
Okay.
the slides are not
Yeah.
changing.
Mm,
Okay, we see project concept.
okay. Do you see my slides changing now? Is it on
We
3?
do,
Okay.
yes.
Great. Thank you, Tom. Thanks for mentioning that. So Um, I was saying, what is the stepwise toolkit? Now, there are two components to the toolkit. We have a technical component and a non-technical component. First, I'll explain what the non-technical component is. It's basically, it's addressing the soft skills or the soft requirements of these local and regional authorities. So the way we are delivering it is by presenting them with a knowledge repository, which also includes stepwise training material. So any material that we develop or refine in the process of the project that is used for capacity building will be presented, and a knowledge repository which will address any other missing elements that are really important to the local and regional authorities. Now, the other component of this is the technical component, which is addressing the IES's decarbonization tools or the ICL tools. And the main purpose of this is to support with the decarbonization roadmap planning. Now, the decarbonization roadmap planning can itself look like a CCAP plan or a CEAP plan or any other clean energy transition plan. We are not fussed with the type of energy transition plan, but we want to support local and regional authorities in developing these plans, which will ultimately help them. So what we did was we did a lot of research within the project with the local and regional authorities. We had interviews and surveys and workshops to understand uh, what are the key pain points that they go through during their energy planning process. So these are the things that came out to us as the most important things, at least digitally, that they suffer with. So, for example, one of the things was they need user-friendly digital tools. They struggle finding all the data pieces to create an energy plan baseline. Visualization is a big aspect that they struggle with, especially when you're speaking with municipality members of different technical skill sets. And finally, they want to analyze and simulate future scenarios, which is a key pain point. So, with this information, we mapped the requirements across the different phases. We took CCAP as an example, Clean Energy Transition Plan, and how the stepwise technical toolkit can support in this process. So it goes from helping them with pre-filled information to create the baseline, doing visual analysis, modeling and simulation of climate adaptation and climate mitigation measures, doing network analysis if needed, and finally viewing and showing the roadmap itself. In essence, we take a user from creating a baseline model and helping them with the with the pre-filling of data where it's difficult to achieve this data. Otherwise, creating scenario intervention models across multiple years, simulating the impact of the interventions on energy and carbon, and visualizing this in each year, and again visualizing it as a roadmap. So we have 4 use cases across Europe, and we have in the consortium energy agencies and other local and regional authorities who are leading these use cases in Bulgaria, Spain, Cyprus, and Mediterranean islands. So just taking you one more time through the features of the toolkit, the technical toolkit. One thing to do after the baseline emissions is to understand what is the feasibility of certain measures. So that is something that the toolkit supports with. For example, what is the amount of solar PV that can go on in a municipality area? What is the annual water runoff in the area, or how do we need to adapt our outdoor thermal zones to create a better outdoor thermal comfort. Different levels of sectors are then presented within the roadmap. Residential or tertiary sector, transportation sectors are usually represented as boundaries and are more static than the building sectors. And we are also able to visualize certain other sectors such as public lighting. What the local and regional authority needs to do is, this is as an example, they need to have a certain idea of what they want to achieve in different sectors and across different years. And once they have this idea, this can then be visualized in a roadmap. And this is how the roadmap is proposed to look. So we provide a template to the local and regional authorities, and they are able to visualize this as part of a roadmap from start to finish. I'll just take it back for a second. You can see here the roadmap in this case is going from 2021 to 2030, and they can visualize the carbon or energy transition over the years, the different measures that were implemented, how far they are or how close they are compared to what they expect. And this also then links into the energy model that visualizes this in a more detailed way at building to building level. So that's kind of the quick summary of the stepwise project. What we are looking for right now is more local and regional authorities to participate with us in the project. What they get out of this is they get to engage with us, get an early access to the digital toolkit. They get to be part of training and workshops. Of course, there is a lot of advertisement that happens when you engage with us, and you will, of course, any local or regional authority interested will help us build this capacity building program more accurately, and give the requirements more exactly. And that's our key need at this moment. So if you are interested, or if you know anyone who could be participating in this project, please share them this QR code. This is also our web page, so if you need any more information, please go on to this web page. And in any other questions, please let me know. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Amisha. That was perfect, also perfectly on time. And I think this also applies in a different part of the project, but it also applies that we call them replicators. So if there are energy agencies or consultants that would like to use these tools to help municipalities, so not only the municipalities as end users, but companies or energy agencies that would be also training the municipalities and would like to improve their skills to do their job better, I think we're also interested in hearing and learning and connecting to those types of profiles. So perfect, Amisha, thank you. Now we have the opportunity to hear from our last project, Energy Poverty Zero, that will be presented by Ruben Alonso from R2M Solution. Ruben, please.
Hello, I am Ruben Alonso from R2M Solution. As Thomas has mentioned, I am going to present Energy Poverty Zero, the project, but especially the decision support tool that we are developing inside the project. In order to provide you a little bit more context, R2M stands for Research to Market, and we have three big divisions that interoperate in order to bring this idea of covering this idea of research to market. So we have an area of innovation, we have an area of a division of innovative products that we use in order to, we help and we try to get project results to the market, and we have also some sustainability consulting and energy services. In this specific project, we worked inside the innovation division, two different areas. One is the area that deals with smart and sustainable communities. Here in this slide, you can see a list of topics that this area covers, from energy communities to smart grids to energy poverty, which is one of the main topics of this project. And the second area is the area of industries of the future. This area is more related to ICT and digitalization. And in this case, this area provides the part related to data visualization and processing. Going to detail Energy Poverty Zero, the idea behind Energy Poverty Zero is about exploring new frontiers for the massification of energy and renovation. And it's driven by two main objectives. The first one is to support and promote the progress towards deep energy rehabilitation of city neighborhoods, with the idea of combating the energy poverty. The second one is to capitalize the learnings of the actors of energy sprung in order to deploy technical solutions. Energy sprung, probably you are aware of the movement. It's a movement that started in Netherlands that has been extended to different countries in Europe that is focused on affordable and quick rehabilitation based mostly in prefabricated components and always with energy efficiency in mind. Energy Poverty Zero is a LIFE project in which we collaborate with different organizations and municipalities. Which is ambition? Ambition is mainly in three main topics. So one of these topics is about developing this decision support tool in order to understand different areas that will be renovated, which will be different scenarios that could be applied to different areas of a city. The second one is about raise awareness, so mobilize individuals. And the second one is about supporting the implementation. So understanding different purchasing approaches, analyzing the financial strategies, and also understanding the potential risks. If we go straight to the decision support tool, basically the idea was to use data coming from municipality and from social housing organizations as an input to gather some information that we could get also from the municipalities, also from some open data and public data like information about energy consumption, information about the geometries of buildings, the orientation, the CO2 production, also some indicators about vulnerability, define some retrofit scenarios, and then provide some outputs like this collection of retrofit solution, information about the energy performance and the potential impact, and together a cost analysis. So we developed this tool that, among other things, analyzes the current state of the buildings. So using as a reference data from like the years of construction, the geometries as mentioned, the orientation, and with this and using some databases, we try to simulate and estimate the demand for heating and cooling and also the CO2 production. Then we do an evaluation of different areas of a municipality based on some vulnerability indicators. This vulnerability indicator is based on a research done by Alexander Husep in collaboration with R2M, and is based mainly in one, in a few articles, but one is developed by the University of the Basque Country that they use public data in order to extract some indicators in order to calculate a global vulnerability index. So we adapted this also to the case of Italian cities with some information coming from databases in Italy. The idea was to present different retrofit scenarios, together a collection of a prefabricated retrofit solution, and then at the end do the impact and cost analysis. Very quickly, I mean, to show the current status of the tool is under development. The user interface is not going to be the final one. This image represents one area of the city of Milano in which, with some geometry tools, we can select different neighborhood districts, areas. Once the selection is done, we can group the buildings. So based on different archetypes, based on the year's construction, the consumption, and a few other parameters. We also have some baseline information taken, as mentioned, from some databases. So from each building, we can do this kind of calculation about, we can extract some data about the year of construction, but also get some information about a baseline information about heating, about cooling, and yeah, even the CO2 production. For the vulnerability index, we, as I mentioned, we use this literature in order to develop a kind of a global vulnerability index based on some metrics. So we are able to extract some data from public databases, especially in Italy, that allows us to calculate the specific index for each of the metrics, and we elaborate let's say an integrated map in which we represent this information. And at the end, we have the possibility of generate retrofit scenarios, grouping in different levels of renovation, from high renovation to low renovation. In any of them, I mean, based on some indoor parameters and some already defined retrofit solutions, we can calculate the different results, like the energy usage, like the investment cost, and this kind of parameters in order to support in the decision support aspect. And that's all from my side. If you need to contact us, I mean, you have also here the information, and we can provide you more information about the project or about the tool. Okay. Thank you.
Perfect. Excellent and well done, Ruben. And in very simple terms, if I understood, is to take data that cities already have and help them visualize which parts of the city are most vulnerable so that they can do something about it. So that's a very interesting aggregation of data that is available, but you have to put it all together and make it usable. Excellent. So we've made it through our 6 projects that are aimed at helping municipalities and the people that work with them to build and implement clean energy transition plans. So now we'll enter the roundtable discussion that will be moderated by Marina Varvesi at ISPOR. So Marina, please.
Thomas, thanks for the floor, and thanks everyone also on our side for the presentation. We have about 24 minutes sharp to go through this roundtable and wrap up. So I have a lot of questions, but I will try to stick to the most significant ones. I will follow the order of the presentations. So starting with Virginia with the NTRAC project. In your presentation, you told us about the work you're doing on the ethnography, the very interesting work of the 2-step assessment, and that this will lead to the co-design. Can you tell us a bit more on how you plan to go on about this? Some more info about that?
Sure, of course. So far, we have established in each pilot area of the project a municipality-region partnership, as I was mentioning, with 15 to 20 stakeholders in each of the regions. And in this stakeholder group, we plan to do a self-evaluation day, an empowerment day, we will call, where the policy actors will be confronted with the results from the research of the ethnography. So we plan to turn questions from what we gather from policy actors and see what the perceptions of policy actors are, if they are consistent with the citizens, if they are realistic, if they also acknowledge that there have been some gaps in the implementation of policies so far. So based on that, we will gather the results from these activities and we will use them for the co-design. We will also see if the policy actors can recognize that there are some knowledge and capacity gaps in order to implement these policies. So based on these results, we will do the co-design.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So you are mixing inputs from citizens and inputs from the same local actors with their past policies as a baseline for their policy design. Wow. Okay, Uli, moving on to local Go Green. You told us a lot of interesting things, and I really can't wait to see how the project will develop. I mean, I do understand you that you are quite at the beginning, but I was quite interested in your coming activities in terms of training and stakeholders engagement. If you could also tell us something there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Marina, as I said, we are on the stage to develop training materials now for 3 different kind of modules, which will be then translated into national languages, and each of the partners which are responsible for the different demo municipalities will cover their different trainings. First of all, with some general information about the clean energy transition, of course, the ISEPs, how to handle this, what is important, and how to get from plans really then into real things to be done on the ground and to be implemented in the future. Because if it's just to talk about clean energy transition is not the thing which we should succeed at the end, to use all the information from the trainings as well from the local green project. But on the second stage, it's also to inform the different stakeholders about the different priority areas, especially on renewables, how to use them, how to get waste to energy into municipalities, how to use biogas, for example, or other stuff in a local context. And at the end, to really have a close look to the 6 different countries which are involved here in this project, what kind of funding opportunities, of course, from the European level, but also on the national level, but also on a local level, can be used really to force these different kind of measures to be implemented to get done the clean energy transition. And we really hope to see all this training material later on also on the e-learning platform, because I think that could be really useful for all of us who are involved in these topics, and to make it available to a lot of different kind of stakeholders in a later stage of the project.
If we can manage to somehow get together all the training that will be developed on all the different projects, it really would be great added value, even because, as I see it, it's very complementary. And if we are facing problems in the knowledge of policy actors in designing their policy, which is their daily work, I guess that on renewables and all that issue, the gaps are even wider. There is, I think, a question for you from Thomas in terms of how do these policy actors or stakeholders, are they knowledgeable on digital tools? Because we had some issues with
No,
our...
Marina, I just saw these nice digital tools on the screen. I was curious, are they hard to use? Who do the municipalities, do they have to hire new people for this? Or are they accessible for everyone?
So from our point of view, as we are now talking about the training materials, this is accessible for everyone, of course. The tools, which are discussed also in the other projects, that's something which might be answered by the different colleagues, because we will not have a tool at the end in the local Go Green project.
I suppose it was more for Amisha and for Ruben, where we saw the actual
I think
tools.
so.
Yeah, so
I
it was
think
a time lapse. Okay, so Ruben, when we reach you, you can also answer that question. And if any of the other projects have digital tools, please bear in mind also how did municipalities react to these tools. So moving on, Jeremy, for the NEC platform project, I know you are near the end and you gave us quite an exhaustive presentation. So nevertheless, I do have a lot of questions, but I will not go into those. My main curiosity is now that you're approaching the end, how do you see the work done by NEC platform? You did an amazing work in reaching out national stakeholders. Would you go through it all over again? Did you think it was worth it?
Totally. When we really, we've been experiencing difficulties in, I think, all the countries except maybe Croatia, because they were far ahead and they had prepared the ground. as I said, for a few years before. So even in France, that is a very, let's say, layered country where communication between levels is quite difficult. Basically, we communicate from one level to the one below and the one up, but that's it. It's much more difficult to get several levels to communicate, and it was the same in Portugal. It was not given in Bulgaria and Romania. We started from scratch, really. So even if in the end we don't reach one of our objectives, that ideal objective of having the ownership of the platform of the dialogue taken by one of the local actors, or even from the ministries or a national energy agency, we brought people together. And even if we didn't manage to get to this ultimate goal, what we learned from it, we can share it. And this is what we will be doing in our replication task that is upcoming now, is that all the difficulties we faced, we don't find them only in these 6 countries. So we will learn from them, and we will share this with other people who are facing similar problems or completely different problems, but at least they will be able to build on it. And so no regret at all. Do all over again? Yes, definitely.
Okay, thanks for being honest. Not an easy question, I must admit that. And please feel free to use all our projects also to disseminate the knowledge, the materials. And one thing that I found very interesting, as you are working at national level, but the problems that you summarized at the end, knowledge, difficulty, blah, 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 are exactly the same of the local level. So true that there are these 2 levels, but then again, the problems are mostly the same. But indeed, having to engage with national actors is much more of a struggle than the local ones. So looking forward to your lessons learned. Thanks, Jeremy. Mara, moving on to Renovity. You mentioned these rears, which look a very, very amazing tool, very interesting. You mentioned different stakeholders from householders up to policy actors. How did you manage to collect all the inputs for the building of these rears? Did you go through co-design interviews? What was the process to actually reach these rears? And how do you expect to exploit these rears?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Marina. So indeed, we went through this co-design process for creating the rears. Now, in terms of contacting the actual stakeholders, we really leveraged the networks of the local action groups I mentioned during my presentation. They have contacts with people on the ground in the area. So in terms of local stakeholders, energy experts that have expertise on regional energy problems, they were the ones to reach out to these stakeholders. And we also have energy experts within the consortium who have very extensive networks. And so they were involved in reaching out to energy agencies, policy actors at the local, regional, and national levels, etc. And one of the things we did was actually we held workshops. We held workshops dedicated to stakeholders to inform them and prepare them for the co-design work. And then we also held events addressed to families to just inform them about the renovation or the benefits of renovation, and kind of get them excited about renovation and integrate them into the project. So in terms of the co-creation itself, we basically decided to implement a 4-series workshop, a series of 4 workshops within the project. And they are all for the purpose of co-creation. So the first workshop was supposed to bring together key local stakeholders in the pilot sites with a focus on those with experience in the field and knowledge of the local situation. And the aim of this first workshop was to identify local needs and directly involve local stakeholders in the co-design activities. The second workshop was supposed to be organized and was indeed organized at the local level, while also inviting national stakeholders. And the purpose of this was to create and present the first draft of the roadmaps. The third workshop was supposed to be larger and nationwide, open to both types of stakeholders and any public that was interested. And the purpose of this was to continue co-creating and also present the final draft of the roadmaps while collecting final feedback from the drafts. And then we had our final workshop, which was addressed to national stakeholders, and it was the last workshop to validate the REERs. And again, we invited any interested public, national stakeholders, local stakeholders to really present their final feedback on the final roadmaps. In terms of the exploitation, we are going to finalize these REERs, as I said, in October, so very, very shortly. And we will be implementing the measures that are recommended in the REERs. During implementation, we will also contact a number of actors who can help in implementation. And then once the solutions are verified, that they can be implementable, that they can be adopted, by the households, we expect that other municipalities, other public stakeholders can replicate the REERs in their regions.
Wow, thanks. So very, very practical tool to address energy efficiency at all levels. Indeed, it's not an easy topic, and when you go to rural areas, it becomes even more difficult because the knowledge becomes lower and lower. Indeed. Okay, thanks, Mara. Now we move on to the capacity building program as Amisha defined stepwise, and a lot of activities there. What I would like to know, was there a gap analysis? How also did you collect the baseline information to build all the toolkit, all the activities that you presented to us? Was there this sort of co-design? And also in your case, how do you plan future steps for the use of this toolkit?
Thank you, Marina. For Stepwise, we did have a skills gap analysis conducted. In our project consortium, we have local and regional authorities who have a lot of contacts as well within their each individual use case. So in Bulgaria, Spain, Cyprus, and Mediterranean islands. So what we did was initially we had a survey, and this was followed by interviews in which we tried to understand that when this local and regional authority, whether it's an energy agency or a municipality, is going through a process of creating a clean energy transition plan, what are the issues that they face. We did not set any boundaries, or we did not prompt specifically. We wanted them to tell us what are the issues from their side. So based on these issues, we tailored we refined our tools. Now IES already has a set of decarbonization tools. What we aim to do as part of this project is to refine them to make them more accessible to the local and regional authorities, because at the end of all of the skills gap analysis, these were the main things that came out, that they struggle they want to be able to use it, they want it to be user friendly, they want to access the training material, they want it to be easy to understand. So we are working on we have this stakeholder approach at the center of working through the capacity building program, as well as refining the toolkit. So now we are sort of we are not at the very beginning of the projects. We have conducted the skills gap analysis, so we have some sort of momentum going, and we are going to start our training process. So the refining of the toolkit sort of takes place over the course of the project as we get more and more feedback from the actual users. So yeah,
Sorry,
we're very
it's a
excited.
continuous link. I mean, it's a continuous loop. There is a
Yes,
continuous
so
loop
we
between,
did do an iteration of presenting what the toolkit should look like after mapping these needs next to what the tools can already provide. We did some minor refinements already. So and these are based on the feedback we received from the skills gap analysis. And now, as we proceed, whatever feedback we receive from the users in the capacity building program, if they're relevant for the toolkit, then we keep adding those and refining that. So that this is a process that goes on through the project. Yeah.
wow, very interesting. And also in that case, so we look forward to the final tool. Okay, so the last 5 minutes for Ruben for the Energy Poverty.0 project. Well, you have your question on online, but I have also a curiosity because modeling is quite a challenge. So I know you are quite at the beginning, but if you can just 2 words also on how you plan to train or use the tools after the end of the project. But let's first go on how it was the reaction of the municipalities to these tools.
Okay, yeah, we are quite early still in the development, so this training will come in the future. Maybe I can mix the both questions. The idea of the tool is to be intuitive and really easy to use for the let's say the people that is going to use it in the municipality. Of course, we plan to do some training activities once let's say the tool is ready. But there is a hidden, let's say, part that is not related to the use that has a bit of implications that also needs some training to be provided to the workers. And it's about data, providing data. I mean, some data that we are using is coming from public sources, but the thing is that not always the public sources has all the data that we need. And sometimes, I mean, most of the times we require some data to be provided by the municipalities. Some of them, they have the data, they have in different formats, they don't know where is the data. So one thing that we have done already is to try to generate a few guidelines to provide to some municipalities about the data that we are expecting in order to enrich our models and be able to represent this data in the platform. So some training is going to be needed for sure once the tool is ready, but so far at least we have developed some guidelines in order to provide some guides on how to provide this data. So I think that with this I covered both questions, but if you have any other, well, please feel free to ask.
Indeed, you managed to cover both questions, and good luck for your challenge. And Thomas, 3 minutes. So for you, also time for a closing remark.
Great, and thank you. So first I would like to thank all of our speakers, and congratulations to all the projects and the results, and also to participate in the event today. And I look forward to doing it again. And the real objective here is to get these tools, as we stated at the beginning, out not to the projects, but to people that can use them. So I would anticipate or encourage our audience and anyone that finds this this video or the presentations afterwards to go through the presentations. They will all be available. Click on the QR codes and follow up on the projects, to follow their websites, follow their social media feeds if this area is interesting to you, because they're working for your interests, essentially. So this would be wonderful if these projects would get more engagement as a result of this workshop, because that's ultimately the aim of the workshop, is to get more engagement with these projects so that they can get more feedback, do more co-design, and have more impact out onto the territories. So I would end with that. And Marina, thank you for moderating the roundtable. And once again, thank you to all the speakers. So with that, I think we can close the session as well. I don't see anything else in the chat. I would like to thank everyone for being with us today and wish you the best rest of the day, event, and safe travels back for everyone that's traveling.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank
See
you
you.
all.